and welcome to Melodies of Life. I'm your host, Anna Enka. Today's episode is about blame. The main reason why we blame others is it's a quick escape from guilt. Blame is an incredible, easy, and effortless tactic to use when we feel defensive. If you don't hold yourself accountable for the consequences of your behavior, thoughts, and feelings, you get to continue life thinking that you don't have any flaws or that you don't have any areas needing of improvement. Blame is often used by those who have a desire or need to be perfect. Do you find yourself blaming others when events don't unfold how you want them to? Does this pattern repeat often in your life? Then continue listen. Blame is defined as assigning responsibility for fault or wrong onto someone else. We blame others for several reasons or for different events. Because of this person, we are late. She made me feel guilty. They pressured me to decide. He made me explode with rage. She is terrible and she cheated on me. And the list goes on and on and on. Blaming others have several unhelpful emotions such as resentment, anger, hatred. We blame others for our behaviors, our thoughts, and our feelings that are negative. It's often used by those who have a desire or need to be perfect. They have irrational demands. I should be perfect. If not, then I am unworthy, unlovable, and a failure. Holding ourselves accountable for our action puts us in a vulnerable position. As a result, it's difficult to do. When we blame others, we refuse responsibility for our contribution to the problem. Blaming other people is easy. It's an easy way out, right? We all do it. And an easy way for us to continue our behaviors, right? This denial of responsibility also denies us control of a given situation. Here are some examples people use daily. I blame the Amazon driver for being late with my package. I've been waiting for so many days now. Where is he? Right? Or the girl who makes my coffee at Starbucks every morning. She's so slow. She's working at a snail's pace. My partner for not helping me when he comes home from work and I've been home all day with the kids. Another good one is, because of your shopping addiction, I am broke. My upbringing was terrible with daily fighting parents. My family is so screwed up and my mom is an idiot. Typical victim mentality, and they continue like this. I can no longer change my circumstances because I am thinking, well, I didn't do anything to cause my problem. This was all her fault. Blaming others keeps us from seeing ways we can alter our behaviors to achieve a desired outcome. It leaves us powerless and it stunts our personal growth. Trust me. This is obvious a state that we don't want to stay in permanently by making others responsible for our problems, right? Our personal progress will be stalled and it's not good for anyone, right? We have to grow. When we choose to ignore any sign, big or small, regarding the displacement of blame, we can even find ourselves pushing away those who are coming from a place of support. If we address the situation with the attention it deserves, it's much easier to read our own emotions and see the reason behind the underlying issue. I have never met anyone who blames people for the good things that happen in their life. Have you? So now the question is, how do we avoid or stop the habit of blaming others? Well, the first step is to stop reinforcing your unhelpful thinking patterns, right? After a scenario happens and you find yourself blaming someone, you probably want to pick up the phone and tell a friend about how stupid this person behaved, or complain to your coworkers about this person, or vent to anyone who's available and wants to listen, right? But when we blame others and repeatedly recount the story to others, we reinforce the blame and emotions resulting from it. So the next time you blame someone, Try not to recount the story at all to anyone and see how it affects you emotionally, mentally, and physically. Also, please change how you view mistakes. Instead of viewing error as a failure to be blamed on others, try to see them as opportunities for self-improvement. By acknowledging your responsibility, you're more able to learn from the mistakes and gain greater control of your life. There's also something that is called false attribution bias. This is where you have exaggerated blame of somebody for something in your life and minimize your role in what took place. I see it all the time. So what that means is you have a disassociated from your own casualty by blaming things on the outside and attributed something to somebody else. You assume that that event has more drawbacks than benefit. I had personally many moments in my life when I behaved in a way that, or someone behaved as terrible, unjustified, heartbreaking. We have all been there, and we had all those blames put on other people, correct? And my perception back then was that they had caused this experience and I was the victim, right? That's how we think. But then I only realized years later that it resulted in many benefits, that it was actually helping me. But in the moment, I couldn't see it because I was blinded at the moment and I just had the blindfolds on my eyes. I then shifted from a state of blaming their actions or inaction into a state of love and gratitude for their action or inactions. Does that make sense? Because most people have false attribution biases. Have you heard someone explain their parents, for example, right? Like they can say like this: my mother was not there for me growing up. My dad was too harsh on me and he was so abusive. My siblings were always mean to me, right? Or a spouse they perceived was never home. So there's so many different scenarios out there, but these feelings of blame stems from false attribution biases and the moral hypocrisy that they have been picked up from their parents, teachers, and preachers. I know that was a difficult one, but that's the reality. These are all outside authorities that we give power to. They are constantly telling us to be one-sided. Always nice, never mean, kind, never cruel, always be generous, never stingy, right? We all try to live by that one-sided view of things, correct? But it's not helping you or anybody else. Because that is an unrealistic expectations that other people have on themselves to be like one-sided. And when we do have these unrealistic expectations, we can't live up to them. Then blame others or themselves when this is impossible fantasy of being one-sided is not met. Does that make sense? So it's a very stressful situation to put yourself in. Try to live a one-sided life that doesn't exist. So they often have a story or a narrative that involves an accumulation of people they blame for not meeting their expectation that results in feelings of resentment, anger, and depression. You can probably relate to that, correct? And clients are often surprised when I tell them that they tend to blame others and project things onto them, so they avoid looking at themselves and the role they may have played. As I have said before, we cannot have one without the other. And I know a lot of people don't understand what I mean by that. But as humans, we want someone as an scapegoat to blame for our challenging actions. That's just how life is. Because it provides a focus and an outlet for their emotions stemming from their false attribution biases. So let's summarize this. A false positive is an assumption that something is there when it's not. A false negative is assumption that something is not there when it is. A false attribution bias involves blaming or crediting someone for some action that is not truly or fully attributed to them. Let me give you a few examples that you can ask yourself to help you move beyond the blame game. Suppose that you blamed someone for verbally criticizing you, right? I want you to clarify that action trait and inaction that you despised in 3 to 5 words. Describe what they did and the action they took as opposed to how you felt. Remember, nobody can make you feel a certain way. It is your interpretation and your perception of what occurred that resulted in your feelings. Hang in there and let me explain. I know this is tricky, but it's an important one. If I offer you $10 million, under the condition that I first take a hammer and I slam your big toe as hard as I can, right? If I just slammed your big toe without giving you anything, you would be furious and you start yelling and screaming and cussing at me or whatever, or maybe spit in my face, or who knows what you would have done. But if I gave you 10 million, you would be grateful for the easiest money you ever earned in your life, correct? Do you see the difference? So do you see that the association you make what I did, it is your own reality and not my action. The action is that I may have slammed your big toe, but that is not what caused your reaction. Your reaction are based on your perception and associations. So if you associate more advantages, you're likely to give them credit. And if you associate more disadvantages, you will give them blame. The blame is not the result of what they did. It is how you interpret what they did. So think about that for a second. And it's always wise to identify what they did by looking at the facts instead of how you felt. That's why pointing your finger at somebody does not get you anywhere. You will always react and judge people on the outside for the things that remind you on the inside of a trait that you have not loved in yourself. So you can practice daily by asking yourself, when you are finding yourself in that situation, the following questions. Where did I do it? When did I do it? Who did I do it to? Who perceived that I displayed and demonstrated it? I know that's not easy when you ask yourself these questions, but I want you to hold yourself accountable, and even when you don't want to, and look where you have done it the same degree as you see in them. And don't tell me I have never done it, blah, 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 because people just lie to themselves all the time, but take accountability here. Next, go to the moment when you perceive that someone verbally criticized you, right? Ask yourself, how does it help me? What was the benefit? I know that it sounds like there is no benefit when something like that happened, but I want you to just follow me on my lead here and see where it's going to take you. Ask yourself, did it humble you? Did it make you self-reflect? Did it make you more resilient, more driven, less arrogant? You name it, write it down. Become conscious of your own role in the dynamic. Look what it's trying to teach you, right? You will attract people in your life to remind you of the things you have not loved in yourself. Let the people and events you are blaming be a teacher instead of the injurer. Injury on the outside comes from a jury from within. That's all it is. And if you know that and you practice that daily, it's pretty magnificent. So I really recommend that you try it. And some of you might be wondering, what happens if you perceive that something really devastating has occurred? Because I hear that all the time. And I have worked with many unimaginable events that you would label as being a trauma, assault, rape, incest, or domestic violence. And there's nothing your mortal body can experience that your soul can't love and transcend. And I truly believe that because I'm a true example of that in my own life. So, and I always tell people, why would you want to blame them all your life, right? Be trapped in it and you run your story and the drama all your life. It's tragic to do that, and it's totally waste of time and life, and we have one opportunity to live the fullest. So when you can transform it, because we can, why wouldn't you? There's no reason for not work on yourself and really transform. And I don't care what it is, because everything can be transformed. And when you see the benefit in every event, even though people say there is no benefit, it is. When we look really close and we ask the right question, it no longer has power over you. And then there is no need to blame. Instead, you will say, thank you for this experience. I have done it 1,000 times. Are you ready to take command over your life and experience a whole new level of meaning and purpose? Let today be the day when you step into your true powers, filled with love and gratitude. Please visit my website, Anna Enka Wellness. Use my code PODCASTAA and you will get your first session for $100. Schedule a breakthrough consultation with me. You will be happy you did. If you have any questions while listening, please subscribe and leave your comments, and you will receive answers to your specific questions. Please hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you love it, please give me a review, share it. That will allow me to impact people worldwide. Thank you for listening. Love always, Anna.